When I first started out in this hobby, I was asking myself, should I get the HD6XX or should I get the Sundara? And I mean, I guess look how well that turned out for me. I have both. So we're going to go through the build quality, how they sound, how they compare, and I guess a few words of advice. So build quality, first off. Sennheiser's better. The plastic, it is plastic. This is metal. So I mean, pros and cons to that. This is a lot lighter. It's a good quality plastic. Um, it is more comfortable. The only thing is I did have to bend it. So essentially you extend the headband out, you keep your fingers off the plastic bits, you just keep it on the metal, and you bend that metal. That's all. Just bend it into place for your head. Did it a few times to each side, made it, even, and these are ultra comfortable as soon as I did that. So just a word of advice, if you find the clamp force a little too strong out of the box with these, just bend that headband. Don't be scared. You can take it. So overall build quality is good. The only thing to consider is the pads. You do have to change them out more often. That these wear out, whereas these pads seem to, they just seem to, stand up. The cable on this, I do wish that the splitter was a little bit further down. It's too far up to the chin for me personally. But other than that, I mean, once it forgot the kinks that it had out of the box, it's a fine cable. It's perfectly fine. Sundara cable's unusable. I didn't like it. This is the newer version of Sundara, but that cable still had too much memory for me. I can't do it. I need a flat laying cable because I often go portable with my stuff. So ignore the Bluetooth things on here because currently I'm using this as a Bluetooth headphone, just like an open back for around the house so I can hear my wife talking to me or whatever else and still have some background music. I mean, this is kind of a great little setup for that. Not doesn't sound the best, but I mean, does the job. That aside, I digress. Overall, build of the Sundara, yeah, it is metal, but it's a bit clacky, so that's something to consider. These don't swivel, so when it comes to fit, this is a better fit for that. These are a lot heavier, so it does fatigue over time. Hot spot on top of the head, things like that. But I mean, it's not an uncomfortable headphone. This is by no means uncomfortable. This is just more comfortable. How does it sound? How do these sound, I should say? How do they compare? When it comes to the bass, these are much better, just in general. Actually, when it comes to tuning, I prefer these overall, just straight up, period. Where the planar have an advantage is instrument separation, and that's we'll get into that later. But the bass, this has a much better bass, a little bit more warm. I like that. It does have sub bass roll off, but a lot of the music I listen to doesn't really recruit those frequencies a whole lot. So, yeah, the Sundara, it feels a bit bass light. Not a lot of bass to be had here. You can EQ it in, as long as you know it has a decent amount of power to bring up those frequencies. But yeah, the bass is it's just it leaves something to be desired. That's all. Mids. These are famous for their mids. Nice and smooth, super relaxing listen, very like not fatiguing at all. Just really enjoy the mid presentation of these. Like the tuning, it's excellent, absolutely excellent. Vocals sound great, guitars sound good, bass guitar sounds good. It all sounds right. I like that. That's nice. Sen, so the Sennheiser do it right. The Hyphenman Sundara though, the mids are good, but it seems a bit thin. So I guess lower mids, it's just something to do with that bass roll off. I almost wish that there was less ear gain because there's no bass or lack of or like less bass. When there's less bass, I just prefer even less ear gain, kind of like the Odysseys in a way. But yeah, I mean overall the mids are good. I use these as an editing headphone, so if that says anything, I think that the mids are good enough, if not excellent enough, to be editing videos and whatever else with these. But these just sound better for music. So, is what it is. Treble. These have a more rolled off, relaxed treble than these. Not to say that these are overly treble boosted, because they're not. These are almost like the Sundara is very, very like kind of neutral sounding, with a lack of bass. If this had more bass, I'd probably enjoy it a lot more. I think that's really my big gripe with the Sundara's tuning. Everything else is excellent, for the most part. And maybe I like a little bit more sparkle, personally. But I think most people don't. So I think Sundara, if it had a little bit more bass, it would knock it out of the park. But these, I think these are just these are a nice flavor. When it comes to the treble, I will say I prefer them tubed, and the reason for that is that the tubes bring out a bit more of those upper harmonics. Um, I find it helps with the overall separation of instruments. I find it helps with the tonality, and timbre of guitar and bass guitar specifically. So I really like these on a tube amp. That's just something to kind of keep in mind. So when it comes to sound, yeah, I prefer the tuning of the 6XX. That being said, this is a excellent, excellent tune set, and for a planar, it's really well done in the treble section, and that's not easy to do with planars. So well done on that front. Word of advice, I guess. So if I could only have one of these headphones, like I'm on a desert island, I'm left with my phone, a portable DAC amp, and a set of headphones. I'm probably going to lean the Sundara. And the reason for that is because I like the instrument separation that planar gives. It's so good. I mean, the Sundara aren't that good. Planars in general are really good when it comes to that instrument separation. I like, yeah, I mean, it seems silly to say, but like the speed of the driver, I like that feel and that sound you get. It's a really cool effect. So if I could only have one of these headphones on a desert island for the rest of my life, it's going to be the Sundara. That being said, I would actually advise to not buy the Sundara. Why, you might ask? Well, though I like the Sundara, I hardly listen to them anymore. I got a better planar now, the Aeon 2 Noir, and since getting that, I hardly touch the Sundara. Even my IEMs, I prefer my IEM planars over Sundara because they have bass. I prefer that sound. The Sundara is a great tuned set. It is nicely tuned, but that lack of bass, if you don't eat Q, is it can be a killer for music sometimes. I don't find these are lacking. Though it has bass roll off, yes, it does have bass roll off, and I mean, I guess yes, it is lacking if you're coming from something, like a Bluetooth closed back headphone like a Sony or a Bose. So it has a lot less bass than those things. But I don't feel like I'm like needing more bass with these. Um, these also scale. So these are going to grow with you. The Sundara, one day they kind of just get left behind. They just sit on a shelf and you don't realize how little you're listening to them until they're just sitting there unused for however long. I keep picking these up. I keep listening to these. I have a better headphone. I have great IEMs, or I mean good IEMs. I don't know, whatever you want to call them. But I keep picking these up. Why? They just sound like the timbre of this on tubes is it's unreal. It's so nice. Um, and I mean, I don't even have a great tube amp. I have an okay tube amp. If you get nice amps, nice tubes, these grow with you. So this grows with your gear. So my final word of advice when it comes to should you buy the 6XX or should you buy the Sundara, what I would say is a lot of people I talk to, they seem to keep their 6XX or 600 or 650 or whatever. They seem to keep their Sennheiser, and they seem to continue to listen to it even as they collect other headphones. But most of them either sell their Sundara or they just don't listen to it. Or in my case, I turn it into a Bluetooth headset that I can wear around the house. So I mean, that I think that says something, and I think that's kind of like that there is like a valuable piece of information in the real world when it comes to like subjective reviewing here. Is that yeah, people they kind of just forget about it. Although it's a great headphone, it's well tuned. You can kind of I would still recommend this headphone to anyone who wants to get into planars. There's cheaper ways to get into planar that I mean I in my opinion sound better, like the Timeless as an IEM. I mean it's not a headphone, but I mean you still get that planar separation. I just think this is a better headphone, and I think it's a headphone that will stick with you longer than something like a Sundara. That's just a that me personally. That's how I have found it to be. I keep listening to this. I keep reaching for this. At the end of the day, when I just want something relaxing and enjoyable, I'll reach for this. And I never really crave the Sundara. I crave the Noir. I crave the 6XX. I don't really crave the Sundara. So take that take that advice as you will. So yeah, is the Sundara a better headphone? I mean, it has better soundstage. It has better separation. It has some better technicalities. But at what I mean, mm, mm, the thing is, like, yeah, buy this, and then if you're going to go planar, maybe save a little bit more and get something nicer, or possibly just go with like the step below, like the 400 SE or something like that, where it's like a lot cheaper. Or if you can find this for a really good deal, like I did on the used market, that's an option too. But overall, I think I prefer the 6XX personally. So yeah, take that all with a grain of salt. If you like the video, like, comment, subscribe. This is just one man's ramblings on the internet. So yeah, I'm by no means right. This is just subjective opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. Either way, I still kept both headphones. I still have both headphones, and I still have a use case for both headphones. Um, I just I lean towards the Sennheiser. That's all. Until next time.